When should you buy daffodils? When they're in tight bud like this or when they're fully formed? I'm Julie from Julie Davis Flower Workshops and Flower Start, the online flower arranging classes. Come and join me and I'll show you when the best time is to pick your daffodils and how to arrange them in a really simple vase. I've bought 3 bunches of daffodils, and when I'm arranging flowers and just got one type of flower, I do think it looks really great just to make a really huge show. So my advice is to buy as many bunches as you can afford. These ones have come from my local supermarket. They're British grown and they only cost me £1. And you'll find that when you buy them, they would have been stored dry, and by that I mean they weren't in a bucket of water. So if you're normally buying flowers from a florist or your street market, they will be put in a bucket of water. These daffodils are always sold dry. I'm saying always, I ought to qualify that. If you're buying from a street market or a supermarket, probably from your florist, they will be in water. But you can see that over time, the stems have really started to dry out, and that's another indication that you need to remember to recut your stems of the flowers so you get back to the soft fleshy bit, and that'll take up water more easily. And you'll see also that I've bought my flowers when they're in tight bud. This one here is just beginning to open out. But I would never buy daffodils when they've got the flower showing, because all the enjoyment of it has already taken place, and you want to be able to look at your flowers right from this tight bud stage until they're really full and out. So get the value for money really. I may have only paid £1, but I might as well enjoy them for myself over the next week to 10 days rather than just having only 2 or 3 days worth enjoyment out of it. I've got also fastened with 2 elastic bands, one at the top and one at the bottom, and then I'm going to keep the top elastic band on and take off the bottom one. I think it's going to make it slightly easier for me to recut the stems. So I cut the stems at an angle, and you can see straight away that sort of all the fleshiness has been revealed, and you can see a sort of slight bubbling. That's where the sap is on the inside the stem, and the stems are actually quite hollow. Possibly you may find that sap slightly an irritant to your skin, so just be careful. And another reason just to be aware of is sometimes the sap can sour the water in your vase for other flowers. So if you're mixing daffodils and tulips together, I would condition your daffodils separately. That means condition is just to recut the stems and put them in water, and then once they've had a good drink, I would then arrange them in the vase with your tulips, but I wouldn't do them at the same time. So I'm going painstakingly through, recutting the stems. Oops. And it takes not very long, and as I get more confident, you can cut through 2 or 3 stems at once. And you may find that normally when you're arranging your flowers, you would put some water into the vase and then just put your flowers in. And if your vase isn't very high, you'll find that the stems just flop out all over the place. That's fine with daffodils because they're a very informal flower, but what I've decided to do is to put my flowers in this little, vintage star basket. I think it's some sort of post basket, and by doing that it just offers a bit more support for my flowers as they grow up. And I quite like the fact that it's going to be a mass of colour. So I've got the mesh in the blue here, the sort of teal blue, and then when the flowers all open, they're going to be, a sort of horizontal stripe of yellow there. So I'll put some more water in my next vase, and you just need to make sure that your flowers are constantly in water. So they will be taking up water, and especially if you've got a warm living room, the water is going to evaporate as well as be taken up by the flowers as well. So you just need to keep an eye on that your flowers aren't drying out. And then you'll find they'll start to open out in the next couple of days. And if you live in a really quiet house, you may even hear the little buds cracking open. I can remember working in an office once which was really quiet, and I was sort of having a moment of thought at my computer, and I just heard this pop, and the bud had opened out. So it's quite nice to be able to enjoy that part as well. You never knew that your flowers we're talking to you at the same time as giving you some pleasure to look at. So taking those off there. So again, you can see the really dry stem ends, and then I'm going to go through cutting at an angle, make sure I've got every single stem. Oh, there's one missing there. And you can see that I've exposed all the fleshing insides, and you can see it on the camera, it's getting a bit gooey. So it's just a bit sappy. It doesn't bother my hands, but you just need to be aware that you might find it slightly irritating for your skin. And I'm going to see how many more I can squeeze into each vase. I'm going to take that one out of the vase there and add in my remaining flowers. I'm just although I'm sort of forcing them in there, I am being quite careful with them. As I say, they are hollow, so it's getting, making sure that you're getting the flowers in the vase, but not to be too heavy-handed with them, because you don't want to be snapping them off. And then they can sit back down inside the container there. And as I say, in a couple of days, there'll be this haze of colour. I just adjust the camera angle there. A haze of colour, and it just looks really great in any situation. And just make sure you keep the water in the jam jars topped up. I hope you've enjoyed that video and those handy hints on what stage you should buy your daffodils at and how to arrange them using jam jars and a decorative container. Do give it a big thumbs up if you have enjoyed it, and let me know what other videos you'd like me to film in the future. And don't forget to subscribe to my channels for handy hints and tips on how to arrange your flowers and some behind the scene tours of my workshop. I look forward to seeing you another time.